Hey, this is Sam with Henhouse Coaching, where we believe you can build a business that builds your marriage. And in this video, I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on the definition and meaning of money and how that plays into your marriage and as you build a business. So here's my definition at this point in time. Money is the mutually agreed upon representation of exchanged value. The mutually agreed upon representation of exchanged value. Now, I came to the conclusion that I needed such a wordy explanation because I've seen so many false definitions or misleading definitions. A lot of people say money is just paper, that it has no intrinsic value, and yeah, okay. Just dollar notes, bill notes don't have intrinsic value. Okay, right, so that's why we say it's a mutually agreed upon representation. And many people say, or have the opinion, that for occupations such as being like a hedge fund manager, right, dealing with stocks, things like that, very abstract ideas, stocks being the representation of how well a business is doing, and being able to buy into that to support them monetarily in that way, and then be entitled to some of the proceeds as they do better. That, I think people get mixed up, they get twisted in thinking that there's nothing intrinsically valuable about that kind of exchange. Well, the reason why I think money has to necessarily is the representation of exchanged value is because, we can get all the way back to even the idea of bartering. It's one of the most efficient ways we can think of yet to support ourselves and to interact as a society by setting up a monetary system that allows us to not have to trade physical things or trade services for things. We do that, but it's not, you can't exchange it as readily as with money. We've got a truck coming down the way. Gonna hop out of the way. But I mean this to say that there are some things that are easy to trade. They are very simple, and it makes sense. We can decide the ratio at which to trade those things. Money is the mutually agreed upon representation of exchanged value because there are many things in life that are not easy to exchange in a proper way. How many chickens do I have to exchange to get my roof reshingled, right? And so this, to me, helps me understand better what my purpose is as a husband, as a father, and as a business person. If I desire more cash, more resources with which to designate towards parts of my life, my family, my business, to grow it, to enrich the experience, then I need to find a way to exchange more value. And this is something that maybe not everybody agrees on, but I believe value is subjective, which is to say, something I have, something I can do, is going to be worth a different amount to different people at different times. And it's my responsibility to figure out what are some of the most valuable skills? What are some of the most valuable products and services? What are some of the most valuable things that I can do for my wife, for my kids? And how can I do that more? Now, I think there's an interesting debate on what does it mean for how can we properly incentivize or reward non-paid labor, such as parenting. How do we reward that? Well, I think because it's something that just about, a lot of people can do. I won't say all, I won't say most. A lot of people can do. And in a lot of societies, it's encouraged to start a family. I think part of it is that we all agree that that's a long-term play. That's a long-term investment in your relationships and in small human beings that you elect to raise. And so for now, I think in terms of how do we pay stay-at-home mothers for what they're worth, I think we can all come at least to an initial understanding that there are things in life where we see the long-term benefit and we're willing to forego immediate compensation in that way. That said, it still costs money now. So, me, as a man, a husband, and a father, it's a responsibility of mine to figure out what would make me more valuable to others, and how can I do more of that. So, I don't think of it as how can I get more money so that I can live better and give my family nice things, enjoy comforts. Now, we do enjoy comforts, and they're great. We really enjoy those things. But the point is, this foundational assumption about the nature and definition of money as being a representation of exchanged value helps me understand that in the end, and it's going to take time, it's going to take trial and error, it's going to come and go, because if life were a video game, people a lot smarter than me would have been able to figure out the cheat codes already. And at times you may say, in certain situations you may say, people did, and they got a ton of money from it, or got a ton of what they were looking for. But for the most part, it's just these foundational assumptions that help me operate more selflessly and more wisely as I approach these problems that I face as a young guy in his late 20s who's trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to serve my community, both immediate and digital, the global? How am I going to serve my family? How am I going to show up and create the best version of myself? One indicator of that is how much money you can generate. It's not a perfect indicator, because there are plenty of people who do morally reprehensible things and get paid handsomely for it. And depending on your political leanings, you may draw that line at different points across the spectrum of things that a person can do in their life for a fee. But I think when it comes to me and Miranda talking about our personal finances, talking about what we want to do in building a business, this assumption and definition of money helps us see where we can really make the biggest difference. Because if we had any other assumption at this point, I think, that money is worthless because it's just paper. Money doesn't mean anything. It's just numbers on your bank account app. It's just numbers. In a lot of ways, sure, those things are true. But what people get rewarded for, what people get paid for, is solving other people's problems. And they solve problems bigger than the desire to keep the money from that person is. And depending on how you go about getting that money from the person to solve their problem, that is a matter of sales ethics, and very sensitive to that. We'll be talking about that as we continue to grow, because I think sales ethics is extremely important, and a lot of people have set a very low bar to show leadership in that aspect of business. But I wanted to leave you with this thought, and consider it with your partner or with somebody you know. Send this to somebody. Maybe you've been thinking about this or had a conversation recently. What do you think money is? How would you define money? And how does that definition of money affect how you go about your personal and family finances and your entrepreneurial efforts? So give me a comment, let me know what you think, and we will go from there. So this is Sam, again with Henhouse Coaching, where we believe you can build a business that builds your marriage. Bye.